Big Mama Jen, she the heart of the city. Lead4Life shining cause her spirit run pretty. Touching every block, every youth, every man. Walking angel on duty with a God level plan. Jennifer, blessings flow where she stands. She lift up the world with the work of her hands.
How you doing, everybody? My name is Karahn Alston. I'm here with Miss Jen, here to talk about her book, Through Her Eyes, with the podcast, Voices of the Village. I'm excited to get this interview started, something new on my end, but I'm excited to hear more about your story, about this book, and all the great things that you do here for the community. So I just wanted to start off everything. First off, how you doing today?
I'm wonderful, and I'm excited to be here with you today. Thank
you. That's good. I'm excited as well. So before we get into the book, right, we know that you're an author. We know that you do so much for the community. I just want to figure out, where did that start from? Is it something that you always wanted to do? Is it something that you always wanted to be as an author? Did you always want to be a community activist? Like, where did that start at in your life?
I think it always has started it did start at a young age, and I was in middle school being an activist. The police were harassing one of the Asian kids that we used to hang out with, and it got to the point where, like, every day after school, they kept going up to him and harassing him, to the point where, I was able to set up a walkout when we were in middle school just to address the issue because the school authorities weren't listening. As well, I had to advocate for myself. When you are a child who has experienced any type of sexual abuse, there's a level of advocacy that has to happen. So you might not be aware that you're advocating for yourself, but it's something that I think naturally has come to me because of the trauma that I've experienced, as well as my life experiences.
So dealing with the trauma, I have a background with mental health as well, a little bit. I just kind of want to ask, like, with that trauma, do you know how did you feel personally, mentally? Do you remember, like, what type of mental space that you were in when you were dealing with your own traumas?
Yeah, I was fucked up. I was fighting all the time. I was getting kicked out of school. I started getting suspended in school when I was in elementary school. And so, because the sexual abuse started happening to me between the ages of 5 and 6, I was really young. I couldn't process. I didn't know. My parents were new here from Quebec, so my father didn't really speak any English. My mother spoke English, but culturally, they didn't really understand the American culture, how things work. So I was going to school, like, just acting up in kindergarten. They didn't really know what was going on with me. By the time I reached second grade, I still couldn't read. I was struggling, but then they're sending me home with packets for my father and mother to read. My father can't read himself, you know what I mean? And then my mom, she could read the English language, but it was very different if you're asking someone whose first language is something else to try to teach their child how to read. So I think it started really young for me. The trauma, just me getting into really bad situations and people just not knowing, what is wrong with her. I don't think at that time, in the early 80s, that we looked at the signs of children's behaviors the way that we are able to in the knowledge that we have today.
So do you remember being labeled during that time period?
Oh, I was labeled that badass kid that nobody wanted in their class. I couldn't go to certain people's houses because of my behaviors. So it took a certain group to go ahead and allow me in their space. And it pretty much was people who had some similar traumas or similar life situations to me. It looked different. It may not have felt similar because our situations were different. But at the end of the day, there was this level of trauma that balanced us out and allowed us to be able to relate with one another.
Wow, that's deep. So I'm guessing with the trouble, with the behavior things, I'm guessing it was becoming now a barrier between you and your parents.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So with the barrier, how did that relationship with you and your parents now affect, you growing up, and how did that come about then?
So my father was an alcoholic, so my mother naturally was codependent. So she could only take care of one person in that house. So it was either going to be me and my brother or my father. And, she went to what she knew, and that was to be able to be a provider for her house and provide the assistance that my father needed during those times, when he was drunk and stuff. So my father hated me for a long time because I was a grown-up before I was supposed to be a grown-up. So just calling him out, holding him accountable to his stuff. My father didn't stop drinking until I was about 20 years old.
Wow.
And it wasn't until then that He had nobody else. I'm like, yo, you still can't even speak English. You sure can't read English. Like, you know what I'm saying? My mom left you. Like, either we're going to work through this or you're going to be by yourself. And so we made a commitment to work through it. Just really one of the best things in my life was being able to have a parent that was willing to look at the trauma together, and we were able to work through a lot of stuff. And then when I was able to disclose the sexual abuse that happened to me and stuff, it all made sense to him. Like, yo, my daughter really wasn't this girl just off the wall and trying to do too much. Like, she was having a hard time processing what was actually happening to her.
So did you experience him dealing with like a sense of regret during that time period?
Oh, absolutely. And then like being able to disclose, like he couldn't protect his daughter. He didn't protect his daughter. He didn't know. He was, he was under the influence. He couldn't pay attention, but he was a provider for his family. So for him, as long as he was going to work every day, it didn't matter, how drunk he was the night before. As long as he was providing for his family, he was okay.
So, as that fast forward to life, did that have you look at family or men or alcohol any different?
Oh, absolutely. So I don't really do relationships. I'm at a different place now, but like pretty much all of my son's upbringing, I might have a relationship for a year and then I'm gone. I'll be gone for 3 years by myself and then I'll get into another relationship. All of my relationships have pretty much been business transactions throughout my journey. And so now at the age of 49, I'm trying to learn how do you really have a real relationship, an intimate relationship with someone that you do have intimacy and that there's no business transactions happening. And so, trauma doesn't heal with one therapy session. Trauma doesn't heal because I'm a successful CEO or now I'm a published author. Like, my trauma doesn't go to the wayside. I still have to do the work every day to accomplish certain things that I want to accomplish.
Wow. So your story is magnificent. It's super dope. It's super needed for, I think, our community, being that it's so much trauma that happens, and I don't think we even understand that we be dealing with trauma.
Yeah.
Like, when did you know at that time? Like, when did you know you were like suffering from trauma at the times of your life? Like, was it an immediate thing that you knew? Like, wait, I'm acting out for these reasons, or I'm not really seeking relations for these reasons, or did it come over time where you later realized that was trauma? Like, when did you, basically what I'm asking is, when were you able to address when you noticed your trauma?
So I was involved with the Department of Juvenile Services, and they made me go to a therapist. And I think my first time, like, really looking at my trauma was so I blamed myself even at a young age for the sexual abuse. And by the time I started seeing a therapist, I had been raped. So like, I just blamed myself for those things. And it wasn't until like the courts made me see a therapist that I realized, like, wait a minute, I'm responding to all this stuff, right? But the damage had already been done. So now this is my behavior all the time. So you're talking about someone who's getting ready to have a baby themselves, and now I have all these behaviors. How do I fix them? Where do I even start to fix them, right? And then I'm talking to a therapist who I didn't feel like could really relate to me, but she brought me enough awareness to say, hey, all these things that happened to you is contributing to who you are today. I didn't like who I was. And then once I gave birth to my son, was like, fuck, I don't know how I'm going to raise this little motherfucker, but I got to raise this little motherfucker. And I can't raise him with all the damage and the trauma that I have.
So in a sense, your son kind of saved you.
My son, I always tell him, he saved my life. He still saves me, gets on my nerves. Still might drop the motherfucker on him every now and again. But he still saves my life, and he's 31. As I heal through my trauma, my son has been the only person that has been there with me through it all. And so he's still seeing those parts of Jen, mom, that are still healing and still having to do things different.
So let's talk about motherhood, right? Since this is a good transition. To mothers out there, struggling to figure out their identity, struggling to deal with postpartum, struggling to deal with their relationships, struggling to deal with just parenthood in general, right? What are some tips? What are some things that you've seen within yourself that you noticed how you changed from early life to parenthood and that shaped you out?
I would say take time to be accountable, right? We can't change stuff if we don't think anything's wrong with us. So one thing I've never done is blamed the men that I've been in the relationship with. I have not blamed them for the relationship not working out. I always played a role. Even when there was domestic violence, I played a role. I kept showing up. I kept going back. My mouth was off the chain. So, okay, you want to throw blows? We're going to throw blows. Like, this is what it's going to be, right? And so I had to first look at myself, take accountability in the areas that I was contributing to my dysfunction and the things that really weren't working. And then once I was able to take that accountability, now I'm able to, even though you don't really know where to start, that's why therapy doesn't work for everybody. Even though my organization has mental health services, I'm really dependent on life coaches. And I'm dependent on life coaches because of a lot of our population, they've dealt with therapists forever. They feel like it's a dead-end road. It takes so long for them to get to where they're trying to go, to where a life coach is not necessarily looking at your trauma, but they're looking at what are the barriers right now that are keeping her from being able to have a relationship. Okay, well, these components right here, this is what we have to work on. So everybody's healing looks different, and it doesn't mean that you have to go to a therapist. Your mental health could be meditation. It could be going to the mosque. It could be, sitting down on the ground or hugging a tree every day, for the universe to give you what the things and the areas that you need to work on.
So for the people that don't really understand what you just said, help me understand, what is the difference between a life coach and a therapist?
So a therapist is going to deal with the clinical parts, right? They're trained to be able to recognize if you have a diagnosis. They're trained to see what type of trauma you might have had that you don't recognize. Why are you not trusting? Why are you not sleeping at night? What's causing the insomnia? But they're looking at it from a clinical lens of what may have happened to you, your relationships in your life with your parents, with significant others, with the neighbors, to where a life coach is looking at it from today. So we're not going backwards, but we're looking at it from today. Jen, how can I get you to stop cussing? Okay. How can I get you to trust? Okay, this is where we're going to start. And then I'm going to pick one thing, and I'm going to work on that instead of having to go back to really figure out the root of where that mistrust started. Okay. I'm not having to go back to the root. We're just starting today to make sure that you can go ahead and at least have a decent enough relationship with your child's teachers, with your co-parenting, that you can trust enough in those areas that you can move forward. So I don't know if that clarified.
No, that definitely does, because we hear about life coaches, we hear about therapists, but we're oblivious to these words. And we don't understand the definitions of them. So when we don't understand the thing, we kind of shy away from it.
Absolutely.
And then we talk bad about it because we have a misunderstanding. Just like I would say, like early on in life, like if someone wanted to play Monopoly for the first time, the first question someone would ask is, how do I play? But as we go through adulthood, we go through traumas, we don't ask, how do I get through this? Right. How do I deal with this? How do I move forward from this? So this understanding of a life coach and a therapist can help save someone's life, because the aspect of understanding.
Absolutely.
So let's get into your community work. Let's get into your organization. What is it that you do? Who is it that you help? What is the type of support that you offer? Let us know.
Okay, so Lead4Life, we're an organization. We're throughout the state of Maryland, and we have multiple programs throughout the state, but we focus on mental health, youth and adults involved in the criminal justice system, as well as children that are involved with child welfare, as well as parents. And so with each program, we have different specific programming models that we use. We use the restorative practice model, though, throughout all of our programming, even the mental health programming. But like, for instance, our Returning Citizens program, we work with the Department of Corrections and some local jails, and we go in and we start working with people before they even come home, so they have somebody that they can call the day that they're out to say, look, I ain't even got a ride home. How do I get home? Because they're just going to give you a bus ticket. So how do I get home? We'll send somebody to go pick them up. We'll send somebody to set up, if the shelter's not ready for them, if they're going to a shelter, we'll pay for a night for them to go to the hotel until a shelter is ready. If we weren't there, that person would have to figure out on their own. And a lot of times they can't go to their family's houses because of certain living situations and things of that nature. So we mandate all of our returning citizens to participate in life coaching. So we offer a lot of financial benefits, such as CDL classes, plumbing classes. We assist with like some MVA fees and things like that. But in order to do it, you have to meet with a life coach for a certain amount of sessions. We have to know that this person actually really has a plan, that they're not just BSing and, just trying to get whatever they can get. And what ends up happening through the life coaching sessions, it decreases their opportunity to actually go back, because now they have a written plan, they have somebody that they're accountable to, and we hire reentry specialists. I believe in Maryland, we're the only one that hires certified reentry specialists. And so we send all of our reentry specialists through a certified program. It's a really great program. But just to make sure that those who have come home are able to guide others. We all need professional development, and so we make sure we invest in those returning citizens. We put some of them on our payroll. We give some of them, positions. We train them. We work with local employers for opportunities as well.
Wow. So people, it intrigued me that when people are incarcerated, they could already get you guys support before they even, get released.
Yes.
How are you guys even in contact with someone if they're behind bars at the moment? How does that communication even happen so they could be in that position? Because I'm sure if anyone that's coming home could hear about this program, I'm sure that anybody will want to benefit from it.
Absolutely. So there's reentry specialists usually in the prisons, and as well as the local jails, and so usually they'll have a conversation with them, and then they make a connection with our leadership team, and then that's where the ball starts rolling. We try to go in and meet with them. If our reentry specialists can go meet with them, we try to have them, because they're the ones that are going to do it. If they are not approved to go in, then we send our case manager in. But just so they have a face with the name, they have all our contact information. They have the contact information of the reentry specialist before they even touch the ground.
Wow. So there are many people that, join your program. What happens if they aren't as active or aren't utilizing the resources? Do they get removed from the program? Do they get reassigned? Like, how does that look if someone isn't taking the program seriously?
So some people are taking it serious, but this is where, in this, just in the mental health field alone, you got to take people where they're at, period. So Joe might be slow moving. It might take Joe, 3 to 6 months to handle the business that it took, Brian. He completed everything he was supposed to do in 6 months and 30 days, right? So we just meet our clients where they're at. As long as there's some activity going on, we're going to keep working with you. If someone says, you know what, I'm good, like, I've gotten what I needed, they can close their case out, and then in 6 months, if they're struggling again, they can come right back and we'll reopen their case and we'll work with them again. Awesome. So it's not a one and done.
Okay, perfect. So with that with that model, obviously being here in Baltimore now, I know you got passed from living in Virginia Beach, correct? How does that time period compare? Like, what was that time period in Virginia Beach like, like, where were you at mentally? Where were you at, just as overall as a person, compared to now, impacting so many people in a Baltimore city? Like, is there any comparisons, any differences? Can you tell us a little bit about that time period and, how it impacted your life to get to this point?
That was a really, really good question. So thank you for that. I don't think I've ever thought about that. When I was in Virginia Beach, I was young with my son. I was going to Norfolk State University and really, really struggling. We were actually in a shelter in Virginia Beach. And so comparison to that then, all of this was a dream. Like, in order for me to I was the only person that had a job in the shelter. And I was going to class and I was working and then raising this little boy, right? And so where I'm at today, it was all a dream then. Like, I guess I manifested it without knowing back then, because I was so young that I was actually manifesting what I wanted. Now to be here in Baltimore City, I love it. Of course, I wasn't born here. I wasn't raised here. So I'm not a Baltimorean. I will never be a Baltimorean. So I'm aware of that. But just being in this community, oftentimes when I tell people I love living in Baltimore, they look at me like I'm crazy. But there's one thing that I will always find. I don't care what neighborhood I walk through, where I go. If you speak, they speak back. Women are always going to tell you, hey, baby, look how beautiful you are. Hey, and the guys are always going to just welcome you and just respect you, is, you know, not come out of their mouth crazy, but just acknowledge you as you're walking by. Everybody's really friendly. We have the same issues that other people have in any major city. But to be here and now to be a CEO and now a published author really is an honor. And every day that I walk out my door, I'm able to remember, because I'm still in the same community, the struggle that it took me to get to where I'm at. And it just allows me to continue to be humble and not be above myself.
Wow, that's amazing. So before we get going, you know, let's address this book, because obviously, you know, with your story, with your life, with your experiences, everything happened through, in your sense, your eyes, but in her eyes in general.
Right.
Tell us a little bit, like, what can a viewer find in your book? What can they learn from you in your book that you haven't discussed today? Why should they read it? What type of person should read it? And just overall, like, what was the inspiration behind creating Through Her Eyes?
Thank you for that. My inspiration was me. I'll give you a little snippet like Snoop Dogg. Like, it was me. And I finally have gotten to a place in my later 40s where I gave myself credit for all the work that I did to get here. And so a lot of times, you know, we as human beings are like, oh, I'm not doing enough, I'm not far enough. You know, like, nah, I have a multi-million-dollar nonprofit that I started, and I only had $3,300 in my savings account, and me and my son thought we were going to go ahead and be in a homeless shelter again when I started the company. These are things that I have overcome, and I had to start giving myself credit. But I really wanted to write the book, and it was heavy in my spirit to do so, because men and women, we think there's one way of healing, and there's not. Like, in the book, I explore multiple ways. I do mirror work. I worked with a healer. I still work with her. She's in the UK. She does a lot of internal work. But she's not a therapist. She's a coach. But she's an intuitive coach, and so she's able to do that healing. Some people need to be by the ocean to do their healing. And so everybody's healing journey looks different. But just because you decide I'm not going to go see a therapist to deal with what I need to heal from, it's okay. The other part is we don't heal in one shot. And so, yes, I healed from some stuff when I was 33, and then I healed again, you know, in my early 40s. But then now I'm here at 49, and I'm dealing with a whole different level of healing now. And so I just wanted people, men and women alike, to know that if you are accountable to yourself, the healing can happen, and you can manifest whatever you want. And you're still going to have your ups and downs. Yeah, I did all this healing work, but some days I wake up and I just don't trust a motherfucker. Like, period, you know? But by the time I go to bed and I wake up the next day, I'm okay. But I give myself grace for those really rough days still, right? And so that is the purpose of this book, to say, hey, heal. We're still going to have rough days, but you can be anything you want if you allow yourself the space to get there.
Wow. And that's all, people. Here you have it. Through Her Eyes by Miss Jen.
She pour into the mentors, we pour into the youth. She built a whole legacy on compassion and truth. From the homeless to the hungry to the ones fresh out. She give hope, give guidance, show a brand new route. Parents DSS, so communities arise. Every life she touch, you see God in her eyes. A matriarch spirit, a mother to the lost. She carry heavy burdens like she built for the cross. Yeah.